What is up, my Watt movie realists? Once again, I'm Matt, back for another real review. And today we are here to talk to you about the Sony Spider-Manless Universe final movie. That's right, final movie. So this is interesting because earlier this week, before this movie dropped, or before I had my screening, I should say, Sony made it known through the trades that they will now be focusing on the co-produced MCU Spider-Man films and Beyond the Spider-Verse, and that's it. They have no plans to continue this universe that we've gotten and they have set up that has seen diminishing returns ever since the first Venom film. And this looks to be the final film in that universe. That is right, Kraven the Hunter. We're here to talk about it, so let's go. First of all, and I say if the other Sony films had even been a quarter as a fun of this film, I might have had somewhat of a good time. It's well documented throughout all of my Venom reviews. We didn't have a Madam Web review here, but we did have Morbius. It's well documented. I've hated every single one of these Spider-Man-less Sony films. You can't do these characters complete justice without betraying what they are as just characters in general, except maybe Madam Web, and that's the biggest flop of all of this series. So when it comes to Kraven the Hunter, it's no different. They do betray the character, and if you're expecting anything else, sorry to say it, that's just what it is. Now, they don't betray this character as much as they do a Venom, because Venom is a character where you have just no ability to do it properly without Spider-Man. Where Kraven, you can still have a little bit of fun, because at the end of the day, when it comes to these anti-heroes that they decided to focus on outside of Madam Web, these anti-heroes that border on villain in any Spider-Man book, this is just, they go full hero, and they do no different in Kraven the Hunter. Doesn't matter that he's off killing people. He's doing it for a good cause because they're bad people, but that doesn't make him a bad person in his mind. And that's kind of the overall issue with all of these Marvel films, or these Sony Marvel films. And unlike the other ones, this one you can have some fun with. It is action-packed. The action sequences are well directed. J.D. Chandor does a great job keeping you invested in that way. But there's still those questionable characters and changing of other classic characters, say the Rhino and Chameleon, that just puts you in a position to where you're like, huh? Or why do I care? Or why should I care? And granted, that is a question you face going into this film, knowing there won't be a sequel, knowing there's no tie-in to a further universe, and that Sony has failed. So outside of that, I will say Aaron Taylor Johnson, great performance with what he's given. Russell Crowe does a great job as his father. Granted, there are a few moments you feel like he may be just phoning it in, but otherwise, pretty solid job. And then you have Ariana DeBose, who I felt was completely wasted. Her character really has nothing to add. And then I had kind of a mixed bag with Fred Hechinger, who you guys saw in Gladiator 2 as the emperor who was crazy because he is suffering from syphilis. I had fun at times with him, but other times I was just like, meh. Now, this film does have a lot of continuity issues. You can tell it suffered from numerous reshoots. And there's a point in this long flashback sequence that we get that it is very evident, especially when you look at a character's hair and how it keeps changing throughout the scene. I do want to say that flashback sequence may have been the most engaging sequence that wasn't action of the film, to me at least. And I had a great time with Levi Miller in that scene, who, those of you who don't remember, if Levi Miller was Pan all the way back in the day with that failed Pan film, which this kid, you can see his talent, but you don't get a lot of great stuff for him to be in, which kind of sucks because I've liked his performance on almost everything I've seen, but the movies he's been in haven't been the greatest. And then you have Christopher Abbott. Listen, I know Wolfman's coming out, and there are a lot of people who speak highly of this guy. I can't think of anything of his outside of Poor Things that I've been a fan of. So I was kind of laughing when he was on screen a lot, not for good reason. And then Alessandro Nivola. Listen, I loved him in many things from Newark. He's a well-known character actor. I struggled with him here. It's the first time I found myself like, I don't know how I feel about that. But otherwise, yeah, it's a movie. You're either gonna love it, you're gonna hate it, or you're gonna feel indifferent about it, kind of, which is where I am. So with that, my rating for this film is a 2.5 reels out of 5. I had more fun with it than any of the other Sony Marvel films. It's just, yeah, these exist. Some people love them, some people hate them. I tend to be more on that. I'm very indifferent about this one and hate the rest of them. So yeah, that's my review of Kraven the Hunter. You can check that out starting tonight in theaters. Showtime shut around 3. But also, just as always, if you haven't already, subscribed to our sister channel, Watt Real Gaming. That's run by one of my partners, Taylor L. Cleek, who is just doing his thing over on our Twitch, which you can follow at twitch.tv/WattRealEnt, just like this channel. And if you haven't already checked out our review for Queer, I know, totally different genre, but check out our review for Luca Guadagnino's Queer. Myself and Jeff reviewed that. The review dropped yesterday by the time that this is posted. And also tomorrow, Friday the 13th, check out our review for The Brutalist. Jeff checked that out. You can go watch that review starting tomorrow around noonish and have an interesting time hearing Jeff break down his spoiler-free thoughts on this film. And last Friday, if you are a Harry Potter fan, be sure to check out myself and Amaru Moses as we break down these potential Snape casting. And shortly before that news dropped, or before we went live, the news dropped about other potential castings, so we go over those as well. And finally, be sure to check out our ongoing podcast series, Views from Metropolis, a podcast on the Man of Steel leading into James Gunn's Superman from his birthplace, which is Cleveland, Ohio, because that is where Superman is born. So be sure to check that out as well. Next week, new episode drops with Taylor Cleek. That's right, same Taylor Cleek from Watt Gaming. And we will be talking about Superman 2, the Donner cut, which in my opinion is the definitive cut of that film. So check that, come back and check that out if you're a comic fan. But until then, folks, signing off, I am Matt. This was another Real Review, and we'll see you next time.